Hi everybody, well we're talking council and we're talking sports in Delta and where it's going to go and where you see it. We're joined by Rod Binder and he is one of the gentlemen that's running for council in Delta on November the 15th. First off, I know you're a busy man, taking time out of your schedule to come out and join us, and we really appreciate that. Let's get to know the man behind the door knocking campaign. You lived in Delta for a number of years, you're on the Parks Commission.
That's right.
Where'd you grow up?
So our family basically started in Manitoba, little town Swan River, Manitoba.
I know that very well.
300
My previous mother-in-law came from Swan River.
Was that right?
Yes, yes.
Well, I hope someone turns off the lights, last one to leave, because it's actually a great little farming town. And so lived there till about 72. And then my father was a farmer, but he also worked for Esso, Imperial Oil, ran the bulk oil station in Swan River. So the decision was that he wanted to go to the big city, so packed us up. Took us out to the coast, and which was very strange because my mom was from a farming family, and of course that's all we knew, and so it was a big change. And got to see the mountains for the first time. I thought I would have a clue what those would look like, and it was extraordinary as we went through Banff and everything. Came out to the coast in '72 and then settled in Richmond, and so did all my junior high, elementary, junior high, and high school all in Richmond, and then moved to Delta in 1990.
Okay. Did you play sports when you were a youngster growing up back east, back in Manitoba?
Well, in Manitoba, oddly enough, the only thing that I did there was curl. Now, it's amazing to think that you're in, ice fields of Manitoba, and I was probably the only kid not playing hockey. Although we did, freeze the lake up, those kinds of things, and skate outdoors and all the rest. Because that's what it was. We were out on the farm and we weren't going to town. But all my friends were very much into hockey. So the only thing that I actually ever did, which was funny, was something called jam pail curling.
Yes, know it very well.
Right. So they used to get these cans, 4 quarts, I guess, whatever they were, and they'd fill them with concrete.
That's right.
And then we'd fire those things down the ice because the rocks were too heavy to lift. So that was probably the sport was in Manitoba. Then when we came out to BC, man, I just remember all the days of street hockey and of course floor hockey and softball. And there was not an evening or a weekend where we were not just, as neighbor kids, just finding ourselves in a cul-de-sac somewhere and just doing a pickup game. Remember, you'd throw all the sticks into the middle of the street, and then you'd fire them left and right to pick the teams, and then we'd go at her. I was a really little kid, so I always thought I'm going to be a great healer because, man, I took the bumps and bruises, and I've only broken one bone in my body, so I came out pretty good. I guess I'm bendy.
No kidding. How come you didn't play other sports when you were a youngster? Just didn't want to?
Well, you know what? It wasn't a matter of wanting to. I think my parents separated when I was quite young, so I was raised by my mother. So I think there certainly was a financial barrier to some of that at that time.
Much,
and then there was the time commitment as well. And and now having kids too, grown-up kids, I know the time commitment that's involved of the weekends and the financial part and all the rest. So I'm pretty sure both of those were kind of barriers. It wasn't discouraged, but it also wasn't encouraged. But we had no problem of finding things to do because there was always a softball field to go. There was always a field to kick a ball. There was always a street to play hockey. So we just picked up sports wherever we could. So although it wasn't in the rinks and the arenas and all the rest of that stuff, it was still very active. Ran track and field in elementary school. And then later on in college days, that's when little growth spurt, so started to get more into fitness and exercising and working out, and of course then gained a whole ton of weight and got really fat.
It's easy to put on, hard to take off.
Yeah.
When you're talking about your family and your mother, one word to describe your mother.
Oh, probably just tenacious. She turns 80 next weekend.
Good for her.
She is as healthy as you can be.
Wish her happy birthday for us.
I will. We're very excited about that. As I said to her, I talked to her on the phone yesterday, and I said, hey, I'm glad that you and Dad are both doing really well because, by the way, genes is the only thing I can't control. So if you guys could just hang in there and give me a shot. But she was, being a single mom, farmer's wife, she had to learn in the big city, knew nobody, how to cope. And she had some skills as a seamstress. And she just went to work, working in sewing and doing daycare and whatever she could do. And we never really wanted. I didn't realize how little we had because she just never let on. And my dad was still in the picture. We still have a great relationship with him, but there wasn't the financial support. And so she's an amazing woman of whom I am blessed to have been raised by.
Oh, that's nice to hear you say, because you need that family support. Now you're married, you've got a couple of kids yourself, not real youngsters. Were they involved in sports, and were you a pushy dad?
I'm probably a more pushy dad now than I was then. Yeah, my daughter really took on into music, and so for her, music's been the big thing, and even to this day. She self-taught guitar, self-taught piano,
Wow.
sings, so all these kinds of things. So that was more her side of things, so we encouraged that. And she did some drama things in some of the local rec centers. Son tried a few different sports, and the one that he really latched onto, as I referred to early, jam pail, he curled. And so he curled for many years the Delta Thistle up at the North Delta. Yeah, he curled up there. My experience when he first sort of showed an interest in curling was I walked into a curling rink, which I hadn't been into in probably 30 years. And I thought, what's different about this? And then I went upstairs to the viewing area, and a few guys were having a beer up there, and I'm going, that's what was missing in the rink. Because in the old days, everyone was smoking and drinking beer and all the rest of that in the rink, but they don't do that anymore, thankfully. Yeah. But I went upstairs and I'm going, now that's the smell of the rink that I remember. He did so great curling, and I'm feeling he'll probably start coaching one day too, because it was good. The neat thing about curling is that a kid gets to play the sport, like every single end you're doing something. It's not like where a kid on the sidelines doesn't get to kick the soccer ball or doesn't get a chance to maybe hit or field or those sorts of things. You're always doing something. And that's the really interesting thing about curling. And I got to tell you, it's a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah, number-wise, you've only got 4 or 5 that are involved in curling. The other thing I've always related to curling, almost like playing chess. You've got to be 1 or 2 moves ahead of your opponents when you're reading the ice and seeing how it goes. And you get people complaining about the ice, it's not lying right and stuff like that, and it wasn't pebbled right and all that stuff. But I think if you get to know about it and you just study it, and it's even playing field for everybody there. Yeah. Absolutely. How'd you get on the Parks Commission?
Well, a few years ago, I sat on another committee in North Delta, and we were talking about the different committees, and so I had applied to get onto the committee, and quite fortunately there was an opening that had come up, and so the commission, I suppose, is who reviews the whole thing, contacted me and said, yeah, we'd like to appoint you to the Parks Commission through my application, and I was so happy to have gotten on. I thought I understood the Parks, Rec and Culture world. Until I had the chance to be toured of all of Delta's Parks facilities with Ken Kuntz, the Director of Parks, and then of course with Robert Campbell, the Chair. And man, Delta is busy when it comes to our parks and recs. They are just, the fields are busy, the arenas are busy, everything you walk into, there's just constantly people doing things. And we've got great facilities, and I was so impressed, and also on the culture side too, and the arts facilities. Not to mention the fact that they always are needing maintenance as well, and the guys are in front of it and doing a pretty good job, even considering some of the challenges that might show up with our Ladner Leisure Center, which was a shock.
That was an absolute shock for everybody. But yeah, our QP workers, our local 454 they do a great job doing that. How does our facilities in Delta compare with other facilities around the Lower Mainland that you've seen? Well,
I've toured some of the Surrey facilities, and I would have to say ours are equal or better, especially when you look at Sun God, for example. Here's a facility that when we first moved to the North Delta area, it was under capacity. And we had a referendum that came out, and they asked, as residents, would you be interested in going for this sort of renovation? And a lot of my neighbors said, oh, really, do you think we need to enlarge it to that extent and enlarge the pool and the weight room area and other fitness training area? And I said, I think we do. And I had looked at other facilities, certainly from Richmond, and they seemed to have been larger and a little bit more well-equipped. As soon as they finished Sun God, I think then they said, man, we didn't go big enough. It was immediately packed, and they've enlarged the weight room again, and it is busy, and it is it's one of the finest training facilities that you could ever ask for. And so, and the nice thing when I go into that, doing my little workout to try to chase eternal youth.
Lose some of the pounds, yes.
Yeah, is you've got kids from, 14, 15, training for their different sports, whether it be soccer, hockey, all the way up to the seniors working on the different cardio machines and stuff, all in the same room working out together. And that's pretty cool. And to me, that's that's the community of Delta in a microcosm right there.
Delta last hosted the BC Summer Games in 1987. Possible thoughts on maybe bringing the games back and tag teaming up either with Richmond or Surrey?
I think it would be very interesting to explore something like that. Supporting amateur sports, any way that's possible is a good thing. And in areas like that, I think it's always a good opportunity to try to look for public and private partnerships. We've got some pretty good industry that's forming around Delta, with the Shore, Tilbury, Anastas. There's some great corporations and around here, and I think it would be really good to look for partnerships in that area and sort of put together, a bid in some way like that. I know that the Giants have been successful in doing those kinds of things, building those kinds of partnerships. We look at Tour de Delta. The tremendous success that has been of getting partnerships together with corporate. I mean, now it's worldwide sanctioned. Yeah. And so I think those are the kinds of arrangements that really work well. Another example is the Dougal-Morrison Fields. The corporation put some money forward together on that, but then some of the user groups really wanted a clubhouse. So they reached out and BMO came forward and was able to provide some funds for that. So I think that's a model that would work in that case.
You would touch base, before we let you run real quick, you would touch base on the Tour de Delta. Ladner is packed for the Saturday event. Sunday is jam-packed down the streets of Tsawwassen. What do we have to do to get more people out for it for the North End up in North Delta?
Well, it would have been nice to have held the rain off this year.
Yeah, can't control that.
Yeah, I think it is an interesting challenge. I went to the event this year. First of all, they did such a great job of setting up some of the booths in the by the elementary school field. They're right across from the safety building, which is sort of ground central, ground zero for that. I think it comes down to probably, as residents, doing a better job of PRing with our neighbors and letting them know how exciting that it is, and to sort of create that. The commitment from the tour and the corporate side, and as well as the business side, I think that's there. I think that's solid. And it's an exciting race. You've got that downhill start, going around the corner of that first turn. It's really exciting to see. And I think it's something that we need for the PR. One tiny challenge that I noticed in North Delta versus Ladner and Tsawwassen is we don't have that same sort of hub. Ladner has the Ladner Village, Tsawwassen has sort of their town center, and that creates that community. In the north, we're trying to develop that social heart area, which is around 84th, the safety building. I think with the North Delta Rec Center's done, now that we've got the ball fields done, I think there's a great opportunity to really develop that social heart, and that's going to be another opportunity for us to promote the north area, and I think support events like that.
Yeah, it's going to be a big challenge, but hopefully it'll continue to grow, and it doesn't hurt having one of the ambassadors that really promotes it as one of the announcers for the event, and that's young Brian Walton, who actually came from North Delta and started his cycling career in Delta.
Exactly, yeah, that's a good point. So that'll certainly help to fuel that event.
No, that sure doesn't hurt at all. Rod, well, thank you very much for coming in. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
I know you're a busy, busy man, and all the best with the election coming up.
Thanks.
Don't forget, get out and vote November the 15th. Put the little check in the box.